Hey, what's up, noobs? So, a few weeks ago, I released a video called Dear Derek, where I answered anything you wanted to ask me. Now, this time, it's Yoori's turn with Yo Yoori. As you may know, she's the Y and YD development and my co-founding partner, but I'm going to let her intro herself. What is your real estate origin story? I've done several videos about my own background and how it led to YD, so tell your half of how YD was born.
Hi everyone, I'm the Y of YD development. I'm sure everybody has been waiting to see me so much. Before YD was formed, I actually formed another company called Verse Development. It's a company that I formed to build a 6-story condominium building in Harlem, Manhattan. Going all the way back to college, after college, right after college, I went on to law school, and after law school, I practiced corporate law for about 5 years. From law school days, I've always been interested in real estate, and I was always, as far as I could remember, I was always checking out real estate listings in and out of New York City. Just not to really purchase or invest in, but to get a sense of how things worked in real estate in general. And also, I love seeing real estate listings and actually going to check out those places. And in my 5th year as a lawyer, it just came to me that I no longer wanted to be in law, and I really wanted to pursue my passion in real estate. But as many of you can relate, I didn't know where to start, and I didn't know how. I thought working in real estate really required a specific skill sets, and I thought that I didn't have those skill sets and was too afraid to apply to those bigger development firms or funds or other real estate related companies. So instead, I started thinking, and I thought maybe working for a startup that's related to real estate would be a better fit for me. So I started working at a real estate listings company startup called Buzz Home, which was founded in Canada and was expanding their new development marketing and listings practice here in New York City. And working there, I was exposed to the tail end of a development spectrum in marketing and sales of new construction, new development projects. And simultaneously, I started my own project on the side with the help of my husband, who was at the time working at an architecture firm in New York City. We looked at different sites, from townhouses to small lots all over the city. Ended up purchasing a tiny little lot in Harlem, and I think the dimension was 18 by 99 foot. It's tiny. And we built a 6-story, 5-unit condominium building there. From the purchase of the building all the way to the sales of the building took about 3.5 years. We originally planned to sell individual units as condos, but we ended up selling the entire building as a multifamily building to an individual investor. This experience really taught me a lot, and I think one of the most important things that I learned from the experience was that I didn't want to do this alone. I needed a partner, not an architect or a development partner. I've been in touch with Derek since my days at Buzz Home. He was one of our potential clients, and I knew he was getting ready to, or considering to do something on his own around the same time. And I think that's when I was wrapping up my construction in Harlem. And I had an investor who had seen my project and was interested in investing in New York City together with me. And I knew that was the time to reach out to Derek, and he gladly said yes. I knew Derek was a very reliable person. I was always kind of hesitant to to work with the partner long term, but I knew he was a very reliable person. So we started looking for a property together for this investor to work on together. And that was really the beginning of everything. It was rather casual. I think
we actually just grabbed lunch. It happened to be on my birthday in 2017.
Yeah, oh, right. I do remember that. Yes.
Good birthday present to find a business partner. All right, so that's your origin story. Nowadays, you do a lot of our first pass reviews on any of the legal agreements that we have to sign, like operating agreements and JV agreements and closing docs. So one of our subscribers, Jeremy YH Kwok, he asked, I am studying a double bachelor's degree in construction management and laws. Will the law part be helpful and worthwhile in my career path as a developer? And is it worth my time studying?
Derek would tell you, the reason I left law was because I did not like it so much, but then ironically, I'm doing a lot of the legal work that we're doing right now. Yeah. I think having gone to law school and practicing really certainly helps a lot in terms of reviewing documents and generally just understanding the world, not just in real estate, but in any business practice. Because you're looking at the world through the lens of the law, but going to law school, first of all, it takes 3 years. With tuition, that's a lot of money. You can probably buy a piece of land with that kind of tuition. It's a lot of effort and it's a lot of time spent, whether it's in your 20s or 30s, early in your days of lives, that you can build your career in other things too, especially in real estate. If you are serious about being a developer, I think law is one skill set that will help you, but there are numerous other aspects of real estate that helps becoming a good developer. I wouldn't do law school just because it helps becoming a good developer. That's not a good enough reason to go to law school. There should be more dedicated reasons to go through and spend all your effort and time into going to law school, I think.
I do have to add to that, that Yoori usually tends to think in a way where she imagines the worst case scenario, the doomsday scenarios, because it's the job of lawyers to figure out how people handle those situations. No matter how rare it is for it to happen, we have to think about what the partners in a particular project will do if things totally fall apart. And lawyers always think about that case, and they always think that it's more likely to happen. And we discuss it through during the entire closing process, and we just hope it doesn't. And usually it doesn't happen, but it's good to be protected in that sense.
Right. Also, I can tell you an anecdote. Recently, I was doing due diligence on a piece of land. I was very cautious and it took more than it should have. And we sent a contract that was very onerous with the terms and conditions that we required. And the seller ended up changing his mind because he said the contract was too onerous and not fair and too, nitpicking on things that weren't as important. Because the seller was an individual and he thought that all those legal languages were too much. So it got me to think, maybe if I didn't have this legal background, maybe I would have approached it differently. And maybe it would have worked out better, who knows? But those are the things that come into play, I think, having that kind of legal background.
Yeah, but on the flip side, if anything bad happened during, after closing and the seller got bitten by it, then he would be happy that we went through all that stuff.
Yeah,
but
you never know.
Yeah. So, all right, moving on. You actually regularly find us potential investors. So what's your secret? Because a ton of our subscribers are always asking how we raise money. Specifically, Dave, one of our subs, has asked not once, but 4 separate times. So Dave says, Yo Yuri, how can you get financing if you don't have a track record but have a fantastic deal? And how can you build a track record without any money?
I mean, everyone would tell you if there were exact formula for finding capital sources, I mean, this world will be much simpler, I think. I think everyone has their own path to those sources. Everyone has their own formula. Everyone has their own advantages, and also timing. For me, I think it was a combination of a few things. Number one, I told a lot of people about what I do and also what I aspire to do in the future, building this business. I'm a mother of two, busy. I'm sure now with COVID also that not everyone can meet so many people and go to networking events. And we are living in a world with much limited access to those events. So I try to stay top of my social media presence, but never overdo it. I just very vaguely remind everyone that I'm in this for real, and
I'm
I'm
probably
doing
overdoing it though.
And that's why I'm getting the sources. So I try to remind everyone that I'm still doing this. I'm in this seriously, and I have deal flows, and I'm actively seeking, etc., etc. So that's number one. Number two, I think really at the end of the day, you have to have a track record. It doesn't matter what size. It could be a 1-unit apartment unit flip. It could be a very small, tiny rehab project. And that's critical to any investor. If you think on the side, in the shoes of the investor, if you know someone and you don't even know that person that well, and they come to you and give you a fantastic deal, but then that person has never done a deal before, ever. Would you invest your money with that person? I wouldn't.
I wouldn't.
So I think no matter how fantastic that deal is, a real estate development project has so many risks that having a developer with relevant experience is key. That's why I'm urging everyone who's asking me, how do you get money? How do you raise capital? Do your first project. And how do you do your first project? I mean, I think that's pretty simple, and it could be difficult for a lot of people, but just try to save up as much as your own money first. And having your family, friends, borrow, invest, pull your friends' money, your family money, your own money, your spouse's money. It doesn't have to be millions of dollars. You can start with very small. You can go out there and find a very small deal with your own money or your friend's money, family money. I think that's the way to go. That's the only way to start your project. So you gotta start somewhere, and not many can really start their project with a third-party investor. I don't know anybody who has done their first ever project with a third-party investor. So that's my second tip or / advice. A third thing is that sometimes I think spending a little could get you more. For the first project in Harlem, I paid a capital markets advisory firm when I had trouble getting financing on the debt side. I pitched to several lenders, and I spoke to them individually through the introduction of the capital markets advisory firm. I ended up obviously getting funded from one lender, but after that deal, now I have contact to those other lenders who chose not to lend it to me at the time, but always were welcoming my deals. So that got me to, that broadened my network. And also when I was selling my property, I spoke to and gave tours to a lot of investors and potential buyers for that building. And I knew all those people who were coming in to see my building could be potential investors for my project in New York City down the road. So I think this just goes to show you that every connection, every meeting, every path you cross with anybody in any capacity could be a potential funding source. So keep that relationship alive, and keep letting them know that you're constantly looking for deals, raising money, keeping that information, you conveying that information to them every once in a while is key.
Yep. Yoori's actually really good at keeping in touch with people that she's not necessarily worked with in the past, but just cross paths with, because like she says, you never know whether you guys can help each other out in the future or not. So it's good just to keep some light contact on social media once in a while, especially during something like COVID, where you don't necessarily see people face to face anymore. Just go out and message people you've met before and just say hi and remind them that you're there.
Yeah, exactly. You'll be surprised how many times that people you didn't expect to be interested in investing in real estate are actually interested.
All right. And then one thing I want to add about doing your first project, it's a lot like startup land, where you have to prove that you're a good founder company fit. And in the case of real estate, you have to be a good developer project fit. So if you have a fantastic project, but you have no track record, it's not a great fit. Someone else can do it just much better than you can, because you don't have any proof that you can actually pull it off and execute. And if the land is just available on the free market, then chances are you're going to be outbid by someone who's very capable of pulling it off. And you've got to compete with that. So you just have to build it and over time and just start small, like Yoori said. And eventually you'll find what you're good at, and you'll find that project developer fit. All right, so my turn for questions, because I've got a bunch as well. So whether we're talking about commercial real estate or residential brokerage, no matter how you slice it, women are a minority group in real estate. And there's a big wage gap too. So not only is the industry way behind in the technology curve, but there's blatant gender inequality. And taking a step further, Asian American women are an even smaller group in real estate. Asian American women make up less than 1% in senior management positions. I think less than 3% overall. So what do you think? Why do you think that is, and what do you think we can change? How do you think we can change that?
Well, I think real estate industry historically has been a very close community of male-dominated, just like other industries like finance. It just historically has been that way, and just really resistant to any sort of change, whether it's taking a minority and women into the senior management position, whether it's the way that the industry works. It's not just an HR issue, it's across all the aspects of the industry, like from deals to funding sources to deal structures. I mean, nobody in real estate development really talks about how they approach deals, how they structure deals, how they are making changes and making progress in the ways that they do business. I think Derek always talks about how he has in the past talked about it several times in relation to prop tech, about how resistant this industry is to changes. So I think that's one of the reasons why we have not seen any changes in accepting or including women and minorities into the senior management position. As to how we can change that, I really honestly do not have an answer to that. I think one way to do so is women like myself starting my own thing instead of making a choice to work for a bigger developer. And then slowly building my own company and start embracing changes and being a leader of those changes, working with other women and other not as well represented groups. But in terms of changing the existing bigger firms and the general sentiment in the industry, that's a very difficult question to answer.
It's a difficult problem to solve as well. But hopefully we're taking baby steps. At YD, we are 60% female. We don't have that many employees, but we're well above average there. All right, so last question of this video. Do you have any words of advice for Asian women who are interested in a career in commercial real estate?
Well, as I previously mentioned, I think if you're seeking to become, to hold position in the senior management position in the bigger real estate groups, like development firms or funds, I don't have that relevant experience, so I can't tell you that much, but I think working as a developer in New York City, let me see that there are really opportunities locally, because in cities like New York City, San Francisco, LA, there are deeply rooted local Asian community out there. I think being Asian can give you a leg up because a lot of local real estate ownership is within the Asian American community. It is your role to take advantage of that community's ownership, and being Asian and having that kind of network, you can certainly, I think, have that advantage. And also recently, if you want to work in institutional funding and bigger deals, I think being Asian can be a great advantage today, because in the capital market sector, institutional real estate, private equity, because of the influx of mega capital from the Asian market, I think being Asian can really also help you with I think along with the local ownership and that kind of network, you can use that to your advantage, especially if you speak that language, Korean, Chinese, Japanese, whatever language that Asian capital market is coming from. I think you should really use that. So those two things came to my mind when you asked me that question. If an Asian American or Asian woman came to me and asked me that question, I think I would give those two advices.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I just want to add to that. There is always this sense of almost like family or familiarity when you see another Asian at a networking event, back when there were face-to-face networking events. Because at least in New York, when we attend these things, it's like 98% white men. And so the Asians naturally gravitate towards each other.
Yes.
And, there could be only like 3 of us at an event, and we're pretty much guaranteed to exchange business cards. Because there's always this like cultural baseline of trust, and we can start off of that and build a relationship. So like she says, use your traits to your advantage. Don't see them as disadvantages, because then you're only going to see the negative side of things. Use whatever traits you have as a positive, and see how you can leverage them to get what you want. So
yeah, I mean, to add to that, I think being one of the very few Asian women in those events sometimes lets people remember you better, and they are instantly curious about what you do, naturally. So I think that to me, that worked as an advantage because people remembered me actually.
Okay.
So yeah, that's adding to Derek's point. Use that to your advantage.
All right, so that's all the time we have. That's all the questions we have. Yoori doesn't show up on the channel too much, so feel free to throw her more questions. Maybe we'll answer in the comments. Maybe we'll get her back for another video one day. Or give us more video ideas. Who knows? Anything's okay. Yoori, anything you want to say to our subs before we sign off?
Yeah, hopefully this is not the last. If people have more questions, they can always reach out to us, not just via YouTube. We can answer by other channels too.
Yeah, our LinkedIn profiles are always in the video descriptions, so feel free to click and say hi to us.
Oh yeah, and send us deals.
Yes, of course. Send us deals and send us leads for fundraising.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we raise money. All right, till next time, noobs. Stay curious. See ya.
Bye.